Hey there, Diane Conklin with Complete Marketing Systems and Diane's FarmDozen.com. Welcome to episode number 9. You've heard people talk about results versus process, right? Outcome versus process. And most of the time, people will say that it's the result that matters. It doesn't matter how you get there. Well, what growing up on a farm had taught me is that sometimes the process is important. Sometimes the process is just as important as the outcome or the result. And sometimes the process is important because there are certain steps that have to be followed in order for the process, the outcome to be what you want it to be, right? Now, this is true on a farm sometimes, just like it's true in business sometimes, not all the time, right? I tend to be the person who doesn't believe in and doesn't talk a lot in absolutes or big, broad, generic statements. Because anytime somebody uses this big, broad, generic statement, like when you blah, blah, right? When you blank, blank, there are always exceptions to every rule. I saw a post on Facebook earlier today that was one of those. And oh, I know what it was. Somebody said an ugly sales letter, an ugly ad will always outpull a pretty one. Well, no, it won't. It depends on who your clients are. Depends on what your clients want, right? It's the piece of message, market, media, those three things matching. So if the message is right, and you're targeting the right people in the right media, then you're good, right? But if the message is ugly and your people are looking for pretty, if you're representing designer clothes, an ugly ad is probably going to turn people off, right? So we have this tendency to make these broad, overarching statements, and I hate them. I hate them because your business is not like everyone else's. It's different because of you. It's different because of who your clients are. It's different because you bring something different to the table, right? I mean, this is like the proof in the pudding, right? I look at things differently because of my farm background, because of all of the things that I learned, all of the things that I saw, all of the things that affected me growing up in this environment. Some of them are good, some of them are okay, some of them maybe not so good. I don't know. But I can bring a different perspective to you about your business based on these experiences of mine in a very different business environment than what we're used to today. Again, very rarely now when I speak and ask people, anybody else grow up on a farm, rarely do I get hands. Even as little as 5 or 10 years ago, I would get a few, but rarely now, right? And so I'm hoping that by doing this series and by doing this particular episode, it gives you a different thought process. It will shift or change a paradigm inside of you based on some making you think about something you hadn't thought about. And that's always my goal. No matter what I do, whether it's something like this, whether I'm speaking, whether I'm writing, my goal is always just to make you think first, because most of us are so on remote control we forget to think, and then potentially to make you think differently. That's it. Not I don't care about teaching you anything. I don't care about changing your mind about anything. I just want you to think for yourself. Too many times we listen to whatever it is the last person we talked to said, and they may not have even been qualified to tell you, to talk to you. They might not even have your best interests at heart. They might think they do, but they don't understand your business, right? So I got a little off topic. But it really isn't off topic because the outcome is ultimately what you want. It is end result. But here's the piece of this. Do you start with that end in mind? Are you strategic enough that you think about what it is that you want before you start your process? Before you begin taking the first action, so that we can talk about what the process is, do you think about what you want as the end result, or do you just start? Do you just throw mud on the wall? and say, well, whatever will be, will be, right? Imagine doing that on a farm. Oh, well, let's just throw whatever in the planter and go see what comes up. No, right? Because corn gets planted at a different time than soybeans. It gets planted at a different time than wheat or oats or tobacco, or which I know we're probably that's like taboo now, right? Where they don't tobacco farms don't exist like they did when I grew up. But sunflowers, there are people who plant whole fields full of sunflowers. Now one of the big tree companies has taken over a lot of the older family farms up by where I live, where I lived, where I grew up. And so the landscape looks very different. But my point is, you can't just like arbitrarily say, okay, let's just throw whatever right into the planter and see what comes up. You have to plant you got to plant corn to grow corn. I know that sounds like duh, Diane, but sometimes in our businesses, we're planting corn and expect a soybean to grow. It doesn't work that way, right? So that's why I say sometimes the process is important. But do you start with that? Do you start with the end in mind, right? So if I know I want to grow corn in my field, I have to plant a corn seed. If I plant a sunflower seed, I'm not going to get corn, I'm going to use sunflower. It's the same in your business. What seeds are you planting every day? What seeds are you planting to grow to and get to where you want to be? And are you starting off thinking about what the end result? Do I want corn or do I want sunflowers? Some of you are just throwing seeds and hoping that some grass grows. Well, the grass is going to grow all right under your rear end because you're not doing things the right way. You're not even starting off with the end in mind so that you know what to do from the beginning. Right? So sometimes it doesn't matter the order, but sometimes it does. That's why I gave you the planting seeds example, right? In that instance, the order you do things in matters. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes all you care about is getting to the end result of putting 200 people in a room or on a webinar or whatever. Does it matter how they get there? Maybe not. Probably not. But sometimes it does. Because if you want a particular kind of client, right? So here's the thing that we know about events. People who go to events and buy. That's their method of buying. They don't buy online. They don't go to the store and shop, right? They buy at the events. So guess what? If you're selling from the platform at a live event and you're going to put your own event on, you want to invite the people on your list who came to you because they saw you speak and bought your program, product, or service are exponentially higher chance of them coming to your live event than somebody who bought something from you online. Knowing that will provide a different outcome and will provide a different process for you to fill your events than trying to go with Facebook ads, for example. Not that Facebook ads won't work. I'm not saying that, right? Hopefully that makes sense and you can see that sometimes it's the outcome and sometimes it's the process. And sometimes it's a combination of both. And each of those requires a different strategy. Each of those requires thoughts up front so that you know what you're doing and how to do it, and your team knows what you're doing and how to do it. Which is important, and in which instance is which thing important? That's the thing that you have to know. That's one of the things that you might need a coach or a mentor for, is to know which of the things that you're doing requires the difference. What requires a process oriented approach and what requires an outcome or results oriented approach. They're two totally different things with two totally different strategies. If you need help deciding, you need help with strategy, you need help with results and processes and systemizing things in your business, reach out and let me know. You can email me at info@completemarketingsystems.com. Leave me a note wherever you find me. I'm pretty easy to find. I'm Diane Conklin or Complete Marketing Systems in all the social medias. You have my email. Make a comment wherever you're watching this, and I'll get back to you. Let's talk. I can help you. Been doing it for 30 years. All right. Episode number 9. Outcome, results, process. Does it matter? And you need to know that in every instance of what you're doing. If you like this, go get the rest of them. Go to dianesfarmdozen.com. Pick up the entire list of all 12 episodes of what we're doing right here and now. All right. Until next time, make it a great day.